Hey people, welcome to another edition of Let's Talk About It. As usual, I'm Short Trini. And on this week's episode, we're going to talk about the top 10 don'ts that you don't do when you are first introduced to a disabled person, or a differently abled person as I like to call it. So without any further ado, let's talk about it. I'm Short Trini, and on today's episode, we're going to do something fun. In honor of July being Disability Pride Month, it was 30 years ago, on July 26th, that the Americans with Disabilities Act was put into law. So I thought it would be fun to put a list together of the top 10 do's and don'ts when it comes to disabled people, or, when you come across a disabled person. Now, keep in mind, nothing on this list is more important than the other, so they're not really in any particular order. Number 10 would be, when you come across a disabled person, be yourself, especially if you don't have a disability. I'll give you an example. Most of my friends are disabled, and some are not. And my able-bodied friends, they love me because they'll say, "Mike, let's make a run to the store." And I look at them like, "Okay, let's make a run to the store." Other people will look at me like, "But he can't run. That's inappropriate to say." No, it's not. Disabled people would love to be treated the way everybody else is treated. All we want to do is to be accepted. And if we're not accepted, bump you. So that's number 10. Be yourself. Don't get hung up on phrases like, "Let's run to the store," and you look at them and go, "Oh, well, you can't run." Just be yourself. That would be number 10. Number 9 would be, when converting or when talking with a person who has a speech impediment, don't interrupt them. Let them finish what they're saying. And if you don't understand any part of the conversation, feel free to ask them, "What did you say? I didn't understand." And they will more than likely speak slower. I have a lot of friends who have cerebral palsy, and some forms of cerebral palsy affect their speech. And it's slurred or it's spastic. And I have to ask them, "What did you say? Could you repeat that?" And they'll be more than happy to oblige. Do not interrupt them because it's rude. Would you like to be interrupted while you're talking? I don't think you would. So when a disabled person who has a speech impediment is talking, don't interrupt them. Let them finish. And if you don't understand, go back and ask them, "What did you say?" Number 8, don't distract a seeing eye dog. This basically pertains to the seeing impaired. They have a dog for a reason, a seeing eye dog for a reason, and that's to get them around. A seeing eye dog is their eyes. So if you interrupt or distract that seeing eye dog from doing its job, it can't do its job. So if you were to come across a seeing impaired person, don't touch the dog. Number 7 would be don't touch or lean on somebody's wheelchair. I remember when I was in a wheelchair, I hated that. I hated for people to touch the chair. I hated people to push the chair. I hated people who got in my chair without asking me, even with asking me. Don't touch my chair. It's considered rude, and you're going to get an earful from that person. Leave other people's property alone, especially a disabled person's property. Number 6, Don't shout. It's funny. A lot of people, when they first meet me, even though my disability, spina bifida, affects my legs, they talk very loudly, as if I can't hear. The handicap is not in my ears. It affects my legs. So don't shout, okay? And another thing that piggybacks off this point, for hearing impaired people, look at them and talk to them as you're looking at them, because the majority of them can read lips, okay? So again, do not shout. Rule number 6. Number 5 on this list, treat other disabled people like adults. Don't patronize them. Don't pat them on the head. Don't talk to them like a little baby. Talk to them like you would talk to an able-bodied person. Patronizing people is already rude, so why would you patronize someone who is disabled? Don't do that. If you do that, that's, don't do it. It's wrong. It's disrespectful. It's wrong. It's condescending. So, that is my favorite one on the list. Number 5. Do not patronize people, disabled people. Number 4, when you're coming across a visually impaired person, especially if you're coming up from behind, announce yourself. Let them know that you're there, so you won't, number 1, spook them, and number 2, they will be more prepared for you. And what I mean by that is, sometimes we all have our moods and we all have our moments, especially with disabled people. We have a lot to deal with. And if you just come up from behind us or start talking to us without announcing yourself, it could be a bad day. We could be having a bad day, you don't know, and we might act accordingly. So announce yourself, and the rest will take care of itself. Number 3 would be when you come across a disabled person, extend your hand. Offer to shake their hand. That will establish trust. That will demonstrate that you mean them no harm. As a matter of fact, that's where it came from, the shaking of hands. Back in the olden days, when 2 soldiers came across one another, or 2 knights in shining armor would come across one another from different directions, they would extend their hand to show that they weren't armed, and that's where the handshake came from. But I digress. Show them, that you welcome them into your circle, and it just takes a shaking of the hand. Number 2, if you want to speak to a disabled person, go for it. Don't do it via a third person. In other words, if I'm here, my brother's beside me, and we see someone, or we see you, if you want to ask me a question, don't go through my brother to ask me the question. Ask me directly. That's what I mean by don't go through a third person in order to talk to me. I'm perfectly capable of answering any questions you may have, and I'd rather you get it from me than from someone else. This is why I like children, because children are honest. Children will come up to me and say, "Sir, what happened? Why are you so short? Why do you wear those Frankenstein-looking shoes?" And I will tell them why. I'd rather them hear it from me than someone who has no idea what my handicap is about. And that's a note to you parents. Parents, if you're walking with your kids down the street and you come across a disabled person and the kid wants to stare, let him stare, but encourage them to ask a question. Because we're more than happy to answer any questions that not only children, but you may have. The worst thing you can do is to say to a child, don't stare, don't ask a question, or, you know, if you continue misbehaving, you're going to end up just like him, pointing at me with the two crutches. And I've actually had that happen to me. I was going to work one day, and a kid was having a meltdown, and the mother pointed to me. I was going in the opposite direction, and she says to the kid, see, if you continue to act that way, you're going to end up just like him. I was shocked. So, you know, don't go through a third party. That's number 2. Speak directly to me, because I'm more than capable of answering any question that you might have. Now, number 1 would be, don't be afraid to offer assistance, but when you're offering assistance, ask. I know it sounds simple, but this doesn't even only apply to me. This applies to everyone. I wish a lot of people in this world would ask. I've seen a lot of people, I've had a lot of people come up to me and rush to open the door. And I look at them like, I could have done that myself. You know, I know you guys want to help. I know you want to help disabled people or differently abled people, like as I like to refer to myself. And that's all well and good, but before you do that, ask. I can get a door. I can open my door. I can open a car door for my date. I can take out the trash, you know. But just ask. If you ask, you might like the response. So, those are my top 10. And I hope you learned something. And I will see you on the next episode of Let's Talk About It. If you like this video, please don't be afraid to like, share, and subscribe. I'll talk to you on the next go round. Peace.